Hello, welcome to QA tutorials. So today we'll talk about some of the important testing topic, that is severity versus priority. This is a very common question that comes up to a beginner tester. What is the difference between severity and priority? And we will talk about this in detail today. Let us see what is the definition of severity and what is the definition of priority. Right, severity is basically distinguished as a appanage that determines defects influence on the health of an application. Right, severity is basically so you classify the defect based on how important is the defect for the application. Right, that is basically severity. So we'll see the different classifications of severity in the later slides. So this is the basic definition of severity. It influences the health of the application, like how important is that functionality for the application is determined by severity. And what is priority? Priority is basically demonstrates the order of execution of a task or elimination of a defect. See, if you have like a couple of defects, you want to decide which one to fix first. So that is what is priority, right? So if you have like 10 defects, so you want to assign a priority for all of them so that you know like which one to fix first, which one to fix later. Right, this is basically used for a planning tool for a planning manager. So highest priority demands specialist to fix the issue, applying the fastest methods. Right, so basically severity is mainly about the health of the application. What is the impact of that defect on the health of the application or functionality of the application? Priority is basically which one to fix first in the open defects, right? High priority. Right, so let us see what are the various classifications in severity and priority. Right, so let's see the severity classification of defects. So there is 5 levels in severity. The highest one is blocker and the lowest one is trivial. So we have like blocker, critical, major, minor and trivial, right? So it depends on like how important is the defect for the functionality of the application. We're going to classify them as 5 different levels, right? So blocker is the highest severity, where you cannot use the operating system, right? So blocking bug defect affects the inoperability of a system. That is, as a result, you cannot proceed with the work, which is application under test. And its essential functions become functioning of a scheme can only be ensured by solution of the problem. So if there is a blocking defect, so you cannot use the system to test it, and it needs to be fixed before we can continue with using the application. That is a blocker, right? And a critical is basically critical can be caused by malfunction of key business logic, right? If there is multiple modules in the application, it can be an important defect in one of the modules, so that you may not be able to test that module because of this critical defect, right? You cannot test key business logic, right? Malfunctioning of key business logic, right? Like a security hole, like issue that resulted in temporary visibility of a server, right? Causing a part of the system to fail. So without the ability to fix the bug, applying input points, right? You cannot test that functionality because of this defect. So this what is the solution for a critical bug is basically this fix for this issue is necessary to continue operation of the essential functions of the system under test. right? So if you want to test that particular module, and if that critical bug is not fixed, you cannot test that features of that module, right? So understand the difference between blocker and critical. Blocker means you cannot continue testing any of the functions of the system, but critical means you can test some part of the system but not other modules, right? So that is critical. Then the major defect happens when the piece of business rationale is not working accurately. Basically, maybe like in the module you have like couple of functions, and maybe one of the functions is not working, one of the functionality is not working. So you can classify that as major, and this is not critical. So you can proceed with the testing, but using different testing, other types of input data. Okay, there is alternate way of testing that functionality. Even though this defect is not fixed, then you can classify that as major, right? Then minor, right? So minor is basically it does not impact testing of the functionality of the system, but so that needs to be fixed at a point, right? Some kind of UI bug, right? Maybe some logo is missing, logo is not displaying correctly on the page, or like some minor links are not working, like some links on the page not working, which are not used commonly. We can classify them as minor, right? So these are all we are talking about severity of defects that are found in the system, right? Then trivial, it's a very insignificant mistake. It's a minor, very trivial, small mistakes that are on the application. So you can continue testing, and you can live with these defects, but it needs to be fixed at certain point, right? So it doesn't affect the business functionality of the application, right? So very trivial issues, right? So these are the 5 different levels of severity classifications. We'll look at some example how this is useful in the real world applications later on. Let us look at the priority, right? So what is the classification of priority? Priority is basically used to define which one to be fixed first and which one to be fixed later on. So there is only 3 levels in priority: high, medium, low, right? High is basically the error has to be fixed soonest way, since its availability is essential for proper operability, right? So if you want to use the application, a high priority defect should be fixed quickly, right? Then medium. So medium is elimination of this error is required, though its availability is not critical but needs a binding elimination, right? So we can still test the application in a different way or through different testing method, but this needs to be fixed at certain point, right? Low means the presence of bug is not critical and does not require urgent solution, right? You can keep them, keep the low priority bugs aside, can be fixed later on when time permits, right? This is how the difference between severity and priority. I think you got some idea. So severity basically defines how important fixing that bug for the functionality of the application, and priority is basically how soon to fix the bug to make sure that application is working properly, and critical. How soon to fix the bug so that application can be used properly, right? This is the difference. So I hope you got some understanding of severity and priority. Let us look at some real world examples how to classify particular issues, right? So let's say if you want to see high priority and low severity bug, right? That means this bug needs to be fixed immediately, but it's not very important to the functionality of the application, right? So something like, say, company's name is misspelled in the home page of the website, then priority is high because you want to have your company name properly on the web page. That's important. Like if you have like Amazon website, if you misspell the Amazon name, people may think that it is some phishing website or something, instead of thinking that it's a actual genuine website, right? So the importance of fixing that is quick. We need to fix that quickly, but it's not very critical to the functionality of the application. So that is why it is low severity but high priority bug. What about high severity and low priority, right? So if you say, like, if you are on the web page, that web page is not found when user clicks on a link, that is high priority. But normally if user does not visit that page generally, like say if you have like terms and conditions on the web page, right? You click on the web page, it's not found. This is high severity but low priority, because you can fix it later on. But it's an important part of the web page, right? Then low priority and low severity. So any cosmetic or spelling issues which is within a paragraph or in the report, right? If you generate a report, there is some spelling issues or some alignment issues, things like that can be low priority and low severity. And what is high priority and high severity? Error which occurs on the basic function of the application and will not allow user to use the system. Suppose like login is not working for the application, then you cannot do much without login not working, right? So that's scenario for high priority and high severity of the application, right? So these are how you classify the defects into severity and priority. And you can, so whenever you're trying to raise issues, you keep these points in mind before assigning a particular severity and priority to the bug. I hope this clarifies what is severity and what is priority, and you got some idea. If you are still confused and have some questions in mind, please put it in the comment section. I will reply as soon as possible. And if you like this video, click on the like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.